So, this week's readings are focused on the representation of homelessness, and through this podcast, I'll focus on homelessness and its changing connotations throughout its time in film, in media, and in literacy. The excerpts from the Encyclopedia of Homelessness touch on how the image of the homeless person is altered by cinema and through discourse, and this is what directly affects what the public assumes homelessness to be associated with. Homelessness is a very complex issue. It stems from different individual, systemic, and structural problems. Although through public policy and social intervention, we can contribute in taking action for the prevention of homelessness, it's film and media and literacy that play a very important role in spreading the awareness of what homelessness is. So, although the theme of homelessness has been represented throughout Hollywood and through different forms of entertainment, the problem comes down to the fact that the image of this issue is portrayed to fit the social paradigm of the time, rather than representing the realities of it. The very early stages of the image of the homeless person came from the late 1800s, and they were associated with this image of an immigrant or just a figure that Americans would see as an outsider. The earlier silent films portrayed these immigrant homeless people as antagonists, as lazy, as thieves, and just in general, there was this very strong distinction between us and the other. I particularly do find this interesting just because it is noted that homeless people during this time were in fact, the majority were in fact American born. So by falsely representing homeless people as immigrants throughout the media, there's this idea of, well, yeah, this is a problem, but it isn't our problem because it doesn't involve us, it involves them. So we don't need to worry about it. And so this is just how the image of homelessness started off in the earlier times. Then comes the Depression or the post-Depression era. And in this time, the homeless merged more into an image of the self rather than how it previously was as the other. And this is because people could now empathize with the whole idea of homelessness. Literature and films reflect the social situations of the time, and because of the economic hardships that the majority working class was suffering from at this time, they work to switch the portrayal of a homeless person as a very romanticized American. The whole notion of us versus them isn't so much in effect anymore because the homeless narrative is, in fact, just more relatable. And then moving on to the homeless image of homelessness in current day media. They mainly express homelessness as a male experience. So now, not only is there misrepresentation in the actual conditions of how a homeless person lives their life, but rather the demographics are misleading and wrongly represented as well. There's been a growing number of women, of youth, of Aboriginal people, and family that are put in these situations, but their recognition under the public image that's created by the media is lacking. And so the representation of homelessness is difficult, but because either we are romanticizing the homeless figure that completely misrepresents the realities of those conditions, or we're getting a depiction of a very humanized recreation of a homeless person and their life. But by doing this, we're feeding off of the suffering of this marginalized group for entertainment and profit-oriented purposes. And unfortunately, regardless of how popular media handles this issue of homelessness, at the end of the day, they're reducing it down to a genre. The idea of homelessness itself is being categorized as an artistic form rather than being understood as the real complex issue that it is. The reading suggests that homelessness hasn't been studied as an independent theme, so public perception is already lacking, in a scholarly sense at least. And the more Hollywood and other entertainment media sources explore homelessness, the further away from reality its representation is going to be. So this becomes difficult to judge because although representation is important, accurate and diverse representation of the homeless person is key to help with public perception of what homelessness is.